Okay, so this is Build It, Draw It, and we're still going to be using like the Cuisenaire rods. And again, you can do this one here, like I'm going to show you on the Google Slides, or you may be doing this activity with actual Cuisenaire rods and the cards. Play the same way, just one with slides and one with actual manipulatives. So if you have the actual manipulatives, you would get your rods. And so they might be in a tray or a bag, and you would get your set of cards. Okay, so this says question card set A. So even though there's set A and B, you will start with A. Once you finish A, then you can go to B. So player one would draw a card and read it to the other players. Each player will then build a possible hole, one hole, using the Cuisenaire rods, depending on what the card says, right? And then you would compare your work among the people that you're playing with. Did you build it the same way? Is there another way? And then you continue taking turns of who gets to draw the card. And after all the cards in set A have been completed, then you get to complete your set A draw it recording sheet, and then you would repeat this with set B. So that's if you were doing it with the actual Cuisenaire rods and the sheet. Now, what it looks like, this is what your cards would look like. You would have a set A cards, and they might be cut up. And then here's your set B, and again, they would be cut up. And then these would be your recording sheets that you would turn in if you're doing it with the actual Cuisenaire rods. Okay? Now, what we are going to do in the rest of this video is if you're doing the same exact thing, but on the Google Slides. Now, to make the slides work to where you can maneuver, first things you have to do, do you see where it says go up? You're going to go up to View. You're going to go down to where it says Snap To, and you're going to turn the guides off. Okay? Now it will be easier to manipulate and make everything work with the slides. Now, first, they want you to play with the pieces, get familiar, practice moving them, also start making observations. And the biggest thing is try to learn how to move them where you're not changing the size. Okay, now if you do, this right here, that arrow that goes backwards, that is your undo button. So if you do accidentally change the size, you just hit that, it will undo, and then you will keep going. So this is where you're going to kind of compare how many of one color makes another color and things like that. Okay. Slide 6 goes over the names. Now, my husband is colorblind, so he kind of needs this. This would help him identify, especially when the questions might say the red one. If he can't see red, he kind of needs to know the size that was the red, and so he can still do the activity. All right, so here's an example. So I'm going to go over this. So let's say this is the card that player one drew, and it says, if the red rod is 1/4, how might you build one hole? Is there another way? Okay, so if you look, here's the red, and it said 1/4. So if this is 1/4, how many fourths equals one hole? Well, remember, to be a fourth, there has to be 4 pieces. So let's see if they have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it took 4 red to make one hole. The other part says, was there another way? Which means, can you build one hole? This distance is now one hole. And if you look, they grabbed a brown. I'm going to line it up so you can kind of see that brown is the equal to the 4 pieces of red. So they did the 4 pieces of red to make a hole with their 1/4, and then found the piece that just equals one hole with 1 piece. And so here's the fraction showing you that 4 fourths, 1, 2, 3, 4, makes one hole, right? So here's a practice down here. So what if player 2 drew this card? If the light green rod is 1/6, how might you build one hole? What's another way? So again, 1/6. Do you hear that small word inside there? How many pieces? 6. So here, this one is light green. And if you don't remember, or if you can't see color, go back to slide 6 and it will show you that light green is that third one over. So here's the light green, and I'm going to pull up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is a lot. So how many sixths did it take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So there were 6 of them. So in that top box, I would type a 6. And because they're called sixth, I type a 6 there. 6, 6. Does that make sense? And then over here is where you would type in your description of what's another way. Do you see up here? It says it takes 4/4 to make 1 hole. That is the same as 4 red rods. And then they say a round is the same length as 4 rods. So then you would have to come down here and figure out, well, what is the same length as 6 green rods? And then that's part of your answer here. Okay. Now, if you look, slide 8 has 2 more questions. Slide 9 has 2 questions. Slide 10 has 2 questions. And then this is the reflection sheet over the card set A that we talked about, right? And then it moves into set B. And then at the bottom is your reflection over just set B.